It seems like one of the hardest things to do, I'm finding, is to come up with a message when it's just a one-off message rather than in a series. When you have a series, at least you have an idea of where you're going, you have a trajectory of what you want to try to accomplish. But if it's just one message and you grab this Bible and you think, wow, there's so much in there, huh, Carl? Must be hard. I have Carl speak often, and he'll say, what do you want me to speak on? I go, well, you choose. He goes, yeah, but, sometimes he has something on his heart and so forth. But so I listened to a message recently, and a lot of the intro is going to almost come directly from him by a pastor in Seattle, John Mark Comer. I don't know if you ever heard of him, a younger pastor, very, very good. And he did a message, and this intro, I had never heard this before in my life, so I'm going to try to bring it to you a little bit. The topic today is on community. Now, it's not something new for Freedom Life Center. I talk about community a lot, and this is going to be sort of a little bit slightly different take on it. So there's a journalist, and his name is Sebastian Junger, and he wrote a book called Tribe. And he told about an amazing phenomenon. Now, this is what I never knew. I never heard this or anything. But like I said, he's a journalist, and he wrote this book, and he tells about this phenomenon that happened in the 1700s. The 1700s here in America, there were basically two different people groups. There were the indigenous people, there were the Indians, and there were the Europeans that came, the white colonialists. And what they found was, after some time, I'm just kind of keep this brief. He went into a lot more detail, but what they found after time was there were colonialists that were leaving the colonies and joining the indigenous people. Anybody know that? I never knew that. I never knew it. And it's not like a one-off kind of thing. It was enough that. And I'll even talk about it here in a minute, enough that they wrote papers and books about it. Like, why is this? Why are they defecting to the indigenous people? And the funny thing is that at least willingly, it wasn't the other way around. The indigenous people, the Indians, weren't defecting their place and joining the colonialists. You follow me? It was a one-way sort of thing. Benjamin Franklin actually noted this exact same thing in a letter to a friend. He wrote this on rescuing colonialists. He said, though ransomed by their friends and treated with all imaginable tenderness, yet in short time they became disgusted with our manner of life and take the first good opportunity of escaping again into the woods. So they were, captured or whatever, and they found themselves with the Indians. They were rescued, taken back to back with the colonialists, and after a while they got so disgusted with the manner of life that they left to go back with the American Indians. Why is that? Why? Well, in 1782, a colonialist, wrote a book. So this isn't current. This is 1782. He wrote a book about this phenomenon. In the book, he writes this: thousands of Europeans are now Indians. Now, it's not politically correct how he writes this, right, in 1700s, but he says, are now Indians. And we have no examples of Aborigines from choice becoming Europeans. So even someone else during the period writes about this phenomenon. Why? Listen to what he thought. This is what he thought. There must be in their social bond something singularly captivating and far superior from anything to be boasted among us. Some sort of social bond, he wrote. Something of a social bond. What could it have been? So what did the American Indians, what did this indigenous people group, what did they have? What did they have that the colonialists didn't have? They had something that thousands of them were leaving to join. Here's what it is. Even back then, even back in the 1700s, they noticed a trait about these Europeans that they're still talking about today. Listen to what one study showed. Extreme individualism is a defining American trait. That was written in the late 1700s. Wasn't written today. The late 1700s. Extreme individualism is the defining American trait. Now, he goes on to say this, which I would agree. He said, it's actually the genius of the birth of America. It's the genius. But it's also our downfall. It also has a dark side. He says this, if left unchecked, it will spell the abolition of humanity. If left unchecked. So, what was it that these colonialists found so appealing? One word, community. Community. They had strong family ties, but they also had strong extended family and village ties. Very, very strong. It's something that we even in the 1700s, they found lacking with the colonialists in their culture. Social scientists say that this extreme individualism, okay, so pay attention to this real quick. They're saying that extreme individualism marked these early settlers to America. But you think, wait a minute, like how can that be? He says this. He said, but that extreme individualism, right? Because you think about it, to leave and to go away, and it's one thing about being a missionary, right? The thing that makes a missionary be a missionary is the thing that makes missionaries difficult to get along with on the field. And that's this extreme individualism of being able to say, hey, I'm going to take up my family, we're going to leave America, we're going to leave everybody, and we're going to go, and we're going to forge ahead on our own. And then we get overseas and we got to start working with other missionaries who feel the same way. You follow me? And so he said this. He said, what kept that extreme individualism in check was the difficult life. They just absolutely needed one another. That's the only thing that kept it in check. They still had this extreme individualism, and which helped them to leave, Europe, to come here to an unknown land, to forge their way. It's the genius, but also the problem. There was a famous study done about World War II, of the London Blitz in 1941. Listen to this. This is what they found. This is so bizarre. They said this, the depression rate of the people in London, what do you think, during the Blitz of London? The depression rate during the Blitz of London went down. Went down. After it was over and things kind of got back to normal, the depression rate shot right back up. Why? Why? Well, during the London Blitz, they needed one another, didn't they? They banded together and they needed one another. During the bombing, let me just say it like this, during the bombing, there was a need for, a sense of, a longing for community. Community. Being there for one another, with one another through the difficult times. So, since World War II, sociologists say that extreme individualism has been running wild in America since World War II. Been running wild. Why? The good life. Listen, I experienced it here. People come to church, their life is in chaos. It's just, going from bad to worse. They come to church and they find God, you know what I mean? Not that he's lost, right? But they come and they find something else. They find this thing that we know what it is. It's the family, it's community. And they find it and they get back on their feet and all things are going well. And guess what happens? They come, they get involved and they're doing things and what happens after a while? Everything gets good. What happens? They go right back. I see it all the time. All the time. And so we know what we need, but when we get it and we get back on our feet, well, I don't need that anymore. I don't need it then. No, it's not true. It's not true. If left unchecked, this extreme individualism, it'll spell the abolition of humanity. So, what's the answer? How do we go about? Because listen, and I believe this extreme individualism, it's what made America, right? We needed people to go to pack up and to go west. We needed that. There's no question. We need people to be entrepreneurs and start new businesses and all this sort of thing. Watch this. Since the 1950s, church attendance has been cut in half. Now, it's not just because people are just leaving church. You might think, well, that's, people, religion, nah. It's not that. It's not just that. It's not just churches. Robert Putnam of Harvard University wrote a famous book, and the title of the book is Bowling Alone. How many bowlers do we have in here that actively bowl today? 2. And I don't see any teenagers raising their hand, Chris, right? It's a thing of the past, right? It's a thing of I remember when my parents when I was young, my parents went bowling once a week. Matter of fact, one of my very first jobs, Chris, was to go to a duck pin bowling alley. My parents bowled, and I set up duck pins, right? We had like 6 or 8 at the end. We had some mechanical ones at the end. I had to, jump down off there, take the 2 small duck pins, roll them back, set up the pins, right? And they were in a league all the time. They played in a regular league. They played in a duck pin league. And so what they're saying is this: it's not just churches that are declining. He says this: any and all forms of face-to-face community are suffering. All forms of face-to-face community are suffering. It means like this. It means the Moose Lodge, the Elks, right? It means like all those clubs. So now you drive around and you see these old buildings. You was that's the old Moose Lodge, right? It's not now. That's what it was. There were all these places where people came and met and had this face-to-face contact. They say extreme individualism has gone to new extremes now. And with social media, it's exponential growth. So loneliness has doubled since 1980. Loneliness. In a study that was done, half of Americans say no one knows them well. I was shocked by that. No one knows them well. Loneliness is high, and it's on the rise. How about this one? Only 8% say they had conversations with a neighbor last year. Only 8%. Now here, let me tell you why this is a big problem. Because loneliness kills. Loneliness kills. One study found loneliness is worse than smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Loneliness is worse than that. It has a greater impact on your health than obesity. Loneliness has been linked to heart disease, to stroke, to dementia, to immune disorders, to anxiety. So loneliness is bad for you. And ironically, it's bad for society. Individualism, what this study shows is, individualism leads to loneliness or individualism. Then, in a strange, weird way, loneliness leads to tribalism. Now, tribalism has been called the dark twin of community, okay? Tribalism has been called the dark twin of community. Let's look at it. Community is based on mutual love. Community is. Tribalism is based on mutual hate. Are you following me? Like in Africa, the tribes over there, they're all, like especially in Zaire where Michelle spent time as a young girl. You have these two warring tribes all the time. Tribalism is about our group, we hate them. That's not community, friends. That's tribalism. And loneliness leads to tribalism. So if community is based on love, tribalism based on hate, and community is based on what we are for, what we're for. Tribalism is the opposite. It's based on what we are against. Community is about the sharing of resources. Tribalism is about hoarding and holding, right, the limited resources that are out there. And so that's why they say tribalism is this false sense of what community is. One author said this: the tragic paradox of hyper-individualism is that what began as ecstatic liberation, right, of people, liberation ends up as a war of tribe against tribe that crushes the individuals it sought to free. Okay, enough bad news, right? That's the bad news. That's if we're not careful, that's where we're gonna just naturally just go. Because if everybody's going that way, we're gonna go. We need to fight against that. That's the bad news. Let's talk about the good news for a minute, okay? Who's ready for some good news? Ready for some good news? I know I'm ready for good news. Listen to what the Bible says. This is in Psalm 68:6. God sets the lonely in families. The lonely in families. He leads out the prisoners with singing. Now this is a song. This is meant to be sung, right? And so you don't listen to this in the same way. You don't listen to it for the concrete specificity of the words, but you get the feel for it, right? Like the songs that we sang. God sets the lonely in families and leads out the prisoners with singing. But the rebellious live in a sun-scorched land. God wants to provide, his desire has always been, for humanity to live together in a community founded on love. Founded on love. Now, I'm not talking about love as a emotion, as a giddy feeling. Talking about what the Bible talks about love. Love is patient, love is kind, it's long-suffering, it doesn't seek its own. Those sorts of things, right? Love is a verb. To live that way. God wants to provide these basic needs of humanity in community. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to, the next 20 minutes, we're going to look at how God solves it, how God solves our individualistic type ways. So that's the first thing. Then we're going to look at why we still resist it. Because I find that, if I'm not careful, I could have a tendency to resist it sometimes. Because it's not just, listen, we're going to talk about what this really means, because it's not just about, I'm around, I live in community. Well, you're around people that you like. You know what I mean? I like these people. We're going to see what the Bible has, how the Bible plays this out. Okay? So why we still resist it, and then how we can get it. First, let's start with a working definition, right? Because if we're just using a word community and we don't have a working definition from where I'm coming from, then it doesn't have that much meaning. So here's my working definition for community. It's when I have close relationships, that's the first thing, close relationships, where I'm known. I'm known. So not just a close relationship, right? You can call somebody close and you know, like we like golfing. Somebody I golf with. So my friend Jeff in Florida, you all know Jeff. His brother's here with us today, Dan. So good to have you, Dan. Pete was asking me before Dan came up, because he was staying with Pete. He said, how well do you know Dan? I said, I'm pretty good. I've known him a lot of his life. I knew him when he was young, you know what I mean? And I golf with him now. And he said, really? He said, so he started asking me some questions about him. And I said, he said, what does he like to eat or drink? I go, I don't know. They said, he's a good golfer. He golfed in high school. I said, I don't know. He kept asking me these questions. I go, I don't know. I realized, I could call him, a friend or somebody that I know, but when it comes right down to it, I was like, I don't know Dan as well as I thought. So my working definition of community is not just having a relationship. Dan and I have a relationship, but we're not known. You know what I mean by that? We're not known to each other. To Pete, I'm known. You can ask Pete about me, and he'll tell you all kind of bad things about me. I certainly wouldn't say anything bad about him. But where we have close relationships and where we're known, that's the first thing. The second thing is where we're cared for. Where we're cared for. When you're home and you're hurting, and right? And people in that community find that out, know that, and they come and care for you. And the last thing, this is extremely important. It's where I can grow. Where I can grow. See, if you're not in community and you're not known by people who can care for you, you're not going to grow. It takes others in your life to help you, to nurture these things in us to help us to grow. So I want you to, as you listen to this message, I want you to ask yourself, giving that working definition, do I have community? Do I have community? And we'll develop a little bit more, we'll say a little bit more about that. But am I in a place right now, where I'm really known, right? Where you could ask questions about somebody. You go, oh yeah, I know he likes to, he did play golf in high school, and he likes to eat this, and he likes to go out, those sorts of things, yeah. Am I in a place right now where I'm known? Am I in a place right now where I'm cared for? Where I'm cared for? Where if I get sick and I'm home, people are going to find out, they're going to know. And they're going to come and they're going to care for me. Am I unconditionally loved? Can somebody find out a deep, dark secret of mine and still say, yeah, it's okay? I mean, that doesn't change how I think about you. Doesn't change how I love you. And am I in a place where I can be challenged to be a better version of myself? A better version of myself. Where someone who loves me enough, cares for me enough to call me out and say, hey, Jeff, that's not good behavior. Or that's not, you know what I'm saying? Not condescending, not malicious, purely out of love. I want you to be better than that, you know? Like we do with our kids, right? Listen, I want my kids to learn how to keep their word, right? They say something, and they back out, and I go, listen, no, I don't want you to live like that. I want you to be better than that. I want you to be the best version of you that you can be. And it's a continual process of growth. But friends, it happens only in community. You're not going to be challenged like that because someone outside of a community that's not in this working definition can't say those things to you, can they? You're going to say, who are you? What gives you the right to say that? And if you don't have community, you don't let people in, you don't have people that are that close to you, how are you going to grow, friend? How are you going to grow? So what's the thing? So you can look at it however you want, but I often take the position of when Jesus came into the world, yeah, he came in to save us, but save us in so many ways. Save us in so many ways. Save us from ourselves. When he came into the world to change the world, what did he set out? How did he set out to do that? Right? How did he go about doing it? Well, obviously, my answer is the first thing he did is he set up community. I want to look at a scripture. There's a scripture in Matthew 10. It says this: "These are the names of the 12 apostles. First Simon, who was called Peter, and his brother Andrew, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas, Matthew the tax collector, James the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon the zealot, and Judas Iscariot." Now, you might say, well, great, it's a list of names, right? How many times have you read that? Lots, right? It's a list of names. Maybe now when you read Matthew and you get the list of names, you go, I read those before. And you skip by the list of names. Listen, if there's a list of names, there's a reason why, more than just telling us who they were. There's always something deeper, more nuanced than that. Let's make some observations, okay, about this community that Jesus started. First off, the obvious thing is that Jesus lived in community, right? He wasn't a guru who hey Michelle, give me a glass of water, please. Thank you. He wasn't a guru who came in and guru, the typical guru, right? Come in, say you have a crowd, say all these good things, and then go off by himself and just be a hermit somewhere. That wasn't Jesus, was it? Now, we'll talk about it in a minute. He did practice solitude, but Jesus lived in community. He didn't stay by himself. And it was a choice that he made to live in community. Also, the call to follow him, thanks, hon. The call to follow him was also a call to live in community, to join this band of people. It wasn't like, well, I want you to follow me and I'll have this little relationship with you, but you don't have to involve yourself with anybody else, right? No. The call to follow him was a call to be part of, to join. Let's live life together, basically. And also, the people called into this community were natural enemies. Do you know that? The people that Jesus called to be part of his community were natural enemies. Let's look back at the list. See, there's always something nuanced, something to find in this text. It's not like I was talking to Dan about something written 2,000 years ago. How does that pertain to today? Well, it may not be the concrete specificity of the words, but there's something underlying there. There's a reason why this is there. Did you notice that in this list of names, there's only 2 people that they told their occupations? Did you notice that? Only 2. Of all the names, 2 of them. Matthew, the tax collector. Everybody know what a tax collector was? Tax collector, in case you didn't know, was a Roman, it was a Jewish person, but a Roman collaborator. And what they did is they would go to the Romans and they would make a deal with them, make a deal with the Romans, and say, listen, I'll collect taxes among my people, but I want you get paid, but I want to be able to skim some for myself. He said, you collect our taxes, you can do whatever you want. And so amongst the Jewish people, they hated the tax collectors. You know what a zealot was? A zealot would do anything in any means possible to destroy, guess who? Rome. Rome. Okay, think of Thanksgiving dinner. You're hosting. And your niece, who's in college, comes in with her Feel the Burn t-shirt on. Bernie Sanders, Feel the Burn, right? And you set her next to your uncle wearing his Make America Great Again Trump hat. and you set them two together at Thanksgiving dinner. This is 100 times worse than that. 100 times worse than that. And these are the ones that Jesus is calling to community. Just think of the drama in that, right? So we think, well, community is, it's, my inner circle, my close friends. Nah, community is large. And Jesus is laying this foundation to say, listen, community is going to be, how many know this? How many know community is messy? It's just messy. It's not neat and tidy and perfect. It's messy and it's uncomfortable. Anybody? Uncomfortable. How about this one? How about this word? You like this word? It's annoying. Now I know no one gets annoyed in here when they come into this community, but right, it's annoying sometimes. So this is no accident. This is no accident. This is the way Jesus did it. It's no accident. This is in the text. Right? It's not just like random, like, oh, I just picked these two guys to tell what they do. No, it's making a point. So here's the thing. Well, why do you think, I'll offer some ideas myself, but why do you think this is so rare today? Why do you think? Let's ponder that for a second. Let's talk about, as you ponder, let's talk about how we misunderstand community today. We misunderstand community. We make the mistake that connectivity is community, don't we? Right? How many have over 500 friends on Facebook? Come on. Oh, you guys, look, exactly right. I know you do. You have thousands, right? But we make this mistake, and social media, you know how many people are estimated on Facebook today? 2.4 billion. Billion. There's 8 billion people in the world. 2.4 billion estimated people on Facebook. We're more, listen, and this you already know this, okay? We're more connected than ever before, but we're lonelier than ever before. A 2018 study showed that teenage girls reported the highest loneliness levels on record. Teenage girls. The study showed that although they're more connected than any other group, than young boys, than older adults, older men, or right? They're more connected than any other group. It says they're less likely to date, less likely to shop, less likely to see friends, less likely to go to the movies than any previous generation of teens ever recorded. So what's the answer? What's the answer? Well, in a book, Sherry Rurkle, she wrote a book called Reclaiming Conversation. She wrote this: face-to-face conversation is the most human and humanizing thing we do. Fully present to one another, we learn to listen. It's where we develop the capacity for empathy. It's where we experience the joy of being heard and understood. Heard and understood. You know, as guys, we're notorious for maybe not listening so much to our wives, right? I'll tell a quick story on me. One time early in our marriage, you can know something intellectually. It doesn't mean that you live it, right? Even though you know it and you could tell somebody else it, when it comes right down to it, you don't live that way. And I remember one time Michelle came to me, and I'm used to had my own business, used to problem solving, and so she would come to me and talk to me, and I would try to solve her problem, and she would get upset because she wasn't looking for me to solve her problems, right? And so one time I remember she came to me with something, and so I thought, I sat there and I went, "Oh, Michelle, really? Oh, that's terrible. I can't believe that's too bad." And I totally thought she was going to go, "Stop being like that." Stop, and I just kept going, "Oh, Michelle." And then I left, and she left, and A couple days later, she came to me and she said, the other day when I talked to you, I want you to know how much that meant to me, that you just listened to me. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I wasn't being serious. You know what I mean? I was pretending to care. But I didn't tell her that until now. Now she knows. But I did. I told her later on, but I learned something. I learned that sometimes that's just what she wants. And that's what you find, like community, where you can be heard. You can be heard. And you can listen to others. It's where we experience the joy of being heard and understood. So don't think that because you're connected that you're in community. Or also we can mistake chemistry for community. Chemistry. I'll go back to Dan again. Dan loves to golf. I love to golf, right? So we have this natural chemistry, right? Comes and we talk about golf and we talk about how to swim, all this kind of stuff, everything around golf and everything. But Dan and I don't live in community. Well, he lives in Florida for one, but we don't live in community. But it could feel that way, can it? It can feel like, because we have all this chemistry that somehow that's what chemistry is. Not community. It's not community. So, why do we fear, let's move on, why do we fear community? Or why, maybe fear is not the right word. Why do we resist it? Like why? You all know that we went from having front porches out there with everybody to back porches fenced in, closed off, right? Everybody knows that's nothing new. You've heard that hundreds of times. But it's not enough just to know that. We have to ask ourselves, why is that? Like, why do I desire that instead of the other? My brother-in-law and sister, they live in an area now where they're trying to get that front porch kind of thing back. These kind of patio home type things, right? Everybody has a front porch, and if the swings out, they sit out there and people walk up and down the street, that sort of thing. So why do we resist? Well, in a recent poll, they said this: only 19% of Christians think community is important. 19%. I couldn't believe it. I can't fathom that. Only 19%. And the reason why I say that is because for 10 years, I've been talking about the importance of community. I've been telling people, listen, I'm going to get you together. We're going to do small groups. We're going to do meal groups. We're going to do all this kind of stuff. I'm going to put you guys, even artificially if I have to, in groups to get you to come together in community. So that when you are sick and there's the people there who know you intimately and you're part of something more. And we do meal groups, right? And people, they kick and they scream, I don't want to do a meal group. I don't know those people. And then after the meal group, they go, oh, man, these were the best people ever. We want to do another one with the same people. I go, you don't understand. They're all the same people. Just give them a chance. Give them a chance to live together in community. So why do we resist? Well, one is individualism. Individualism. We fear commitment, right? So I talked about before about the solitary life. That's important. Community is important. Jesus lived back and forth between the two. See, there's a difference. Look, Jesus lived, he had a solitary life, and he had a community life. And he bounced back and forth. He'd get up early in the morning and go off by himself. Then he'd get back with community, right? He'd be with them. Then he'd get alone by himself to pray. You follow me? You get in the rhythm? Get the rhythm? He's with people. Needs to get off by himself. With people. Well, what are we in America today? Well, we're never really alone. We always have our headphones in, listening to something. We never have solitude, but we certainly don't want to do this, to have commitment with people and have people really know me. So we're not there, and we stay right down the middle. And we don't experience either one, where Jesus' rhythm was back and forth between the two. So one of the problems is, why we resist is this extreme individualism. Next thing is, another reason why we resist is idealism. idealism. Here's the thing, we have this picture of what we want it to be, we think it's going to be, or whatever, right? Community or faith or whatever, right? Am I right? We have this ideal, and what happens is when we engage in it, we find that our ideal, it doesn't match. Real life doesn't match my ideal, and then we get disgruntled. It doesn't meet our, listen, everybody listen to me real quick. Just kind of gather your thoughts are everywhere right now, right? When it doesn't meet, I talked a lot of time here about expectations. When it doesn't meet our expectation, regardless of if our expectation was too high or whatever, we don't think that way. When it doesn't meet our expectation, you know what happens? I see it so often. We get offended. We get offended. We take an offense. Why? We just do. You don't have to, but we do. Here's the thing. Don't ever trade the beautiful real for an unattainable ideal. Because the real is, it's what is. It's what exists. Never trade the beautiful real for the unattainable ideal. There's no such thing, is there? It is truly unattainable. So individualism, idealism, and the last one is simply we're intimidated. We're intimidated to really join, to really enter into community, to risk being honest, to risk being fully known. But the truth is we need a place like this. We need a place where we can, without fear, we can share our innermost troubles and problems and worries and hurts and pains to someone who will listen. And sometimes just listen. Because sometimes, have you found this? Sometimes words would actually diminish the moment. I told Brent one time, he had a friend, and his friend's dad passed away. And I said, have you seen him yet? He said, no, Dad, I don't know what to say. I go, do you think you could say anything to make him feel better? He said, no, exactly. But your presence will help him. Just go be with him. Go be with him. I'll never forget when my dad died, I was 17. Pete and my friend Joe and another friend Terry, they came over with me, just sat on my front porch. My dad just died like the day before. They came over and just sat with me. There was nothing to say. They didn't try to, we were 18, 17. We had no words. We didn't understand death. There was no words. Even if they thought they knew words, there's no comfort there. But their presence was comfort. But we're intimidated by that. We're intimidated by that intimacy, that closeness. It scares us. Have you ever, just think in your own mind, have you ever thought this? Wow, if people knew the thoughts that ran through my head, they'd never want to be my friend. And we all have unwanted thoughts, right? We all have those things just happen, right? But this idea that I could never be honest and real with people, well, there's no community there whatsoever. Okay, let's finish up here. Let's talk about real quick why we need community. Ben, why don't you start working your way up here? I can get through this pretty quick. Why we need community. Number one, community grows me. There's two essential spiritual things that take place in community. And only happen in community. And I've talked about this first one a lot, and that is vulnerability. Vulnerability. In community, we need to learn how to be vulnerable. It only happens in that type of community. So we have vulnerability and accountability. A close friend who can, and then listen, that's why the 12-step program works so well. That's why it works so well, because it's founded on these things. Ephesians 2:19 says this, Consequently, you are no longer foreigners and strangers. Listen, he's talking to Jews and Greeks and Romans, all this hodgepodge of people. He said, consequently, you are no longer foreigners and strangers, but fellow citizens with God's people and also members of his household, built on a foundation of the apostles and prophets, with Christ Jesus himself as the chief cornerstone. In him, the whole building is joined together and rises to become, listen how he puts it, a holy temple. So community, what he's trying to describe here is this. What Paul's saying is, yeah, it's like a family, but it's like more than that. It's more than that, because this foundation of what it's built on. So there's overlap. We can be so different, but we have this overlap of this idea that Christ is all and in all, and everything is by him, through him, in him, and for him. And that's this foundation. We all have this same foundation laid. And he says this, in him you two are being built together to become a dwelling in which God lives by his Spirit. The reason why I want them to sing this song again, is because there's this idea that we're singing about Jesus, but there's an idea that I see Jesus when I'm with Tony, and I see Jesus in Tony. Are you following me? Right? I see him living his life out, right, with me, beside me, him loving Jesus, and him struggling through life, like we all struggle through life, and I see Jesus in him. And you do the same thing. And so community helps change me, grow me. It also helps grow the kingdom. My last scripture is this. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes. That's why we do meal groups. Why do we do meal groups? Get together in homes, cook together, right? Open up someone else's pantry, even when it's so hard for them. What are they doing in my pantry? What are the pots there? Oh my God, some women are like that. Some men are like that. Learn to live in that type of community. They met together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes. They ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily. Community helps build the kingdom. The bottom line is this, friends. Here's the bottom line. Community is essential for the abundant life that Jesus said he came to give in John 10:10. He said, I've come that you might have life. And it says, this isn't some ethereal thing about eternal life in the future. That's all well and good. That's great. He said that you might have life in its most abundant form. How many want an abundant life? That's what I want. That's how I want to live. A life of abundance, of abundance of when I make mistakes, an abundance of grace. Abundance of mercy, abundance of love, abundance of joy, abundance of peace. That's what I want. That's what I want for you. That's what I want for my family. That's what I want for this community. That's what I want for this world. Let me just say a closing prayer, and I want you to stand with the band and sing along this song, listen to the words. Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for this opportunity to gather together. Lord, help us to really, really think about where I am as a person, as an individual. Am I really in community? Or do I have a fake community? Am I in a place where I am really, really known? Am I in a place that when I'm hurting, I can be cared for? Am I in a place where I can grow? And if the answer to those are not really, God, then help me. Help me find a community. If I can't even find it, help me to start one. Help me to be a part of something bigger, something more, to live that abundant life. We thank you. Amen.